Good evening. There you go. Thanks, neighbors. And thank you for joining us today at the Mary D. Fisher Theater. My name is David Key. I have the honor and privilege of serving as president and CEO for the Greater Sedona Chamber of Commerce and moderator for tonight's Ballot Issues Forum. The Greater Sedona Chamber is a 501c6 nonprofit organization that dates back to 1949. We're a nonpartisan organization with the goal of supporting resilient economies and connected communities. We have engaged with our elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels to provide feedback on legislation affecting the Red Rock region. But tonight, we focus on the most important part of advocacy work, civic engagement. So I'd love for you to give it all up for yourselves for choosing to engage in elections and civic debate. With that said, the forum is designed tonight to help the community members better understand the facts and potential impacts and perspectives surrounding each proposition ahead of the election. Attendees are going to hear informational presentations, learn about key considerations on both sides of the issue, and receive reliable resources to continue their own research and explore questions in greater depth. We hope you all were able to attend the City Council and Mayoral Candidate Forum earlier this month that we co-hosted with the League of Women Voters of Northern Arizona and the Sedona Lodging Council. Tonight, we are again co-hosting with the Sedona Lodging Council. And with that, I would like to introduce Lonnie Lilly, Director of the Sedona Lodging Council Board of Directors.
Good evening. My name is Lonnie Lilly. I am a director of the Sedona Lodging Council Board of Directors and a 44-year resident of Sedona. The Sedona Lodging Council is a nonprofit trade association founded in 2003 to advocate for the lodging and hospitality industry of Greater Sedona. The Sedona Lodging Council represents the interests of the lodging and hospitality industry, advocating for policies that support and enhance our sector. We work to provide assistance at both local and state levels, ensuring that our hospitality partners have the resources and support needed to operate their businesses effectively. Our focus is on fostering and thriving tourism environment that benefits both the industry and the community. As David mentioned, we were proud to co-host the Mayoral and Candidate Forum in partnership with the League of Women Voters in Northern Arizona and to partner once more with the Greater Sedona Chamber to hold tonight's Ballot Issues Forum to bring insight to both Prop 400 and Prop 403. On behalf of the Sedona Lodging Council, thank you for attending this forum and participating in local elections. Thank you to each of our speakers this evening for donating your time to bring insight and perspective to the community. David will now review the ground rules for the forum and introduce our first speaker. Thank you in advance for being respectful in your remarks and mindful of the time limits that we have put in place to ensure everyone has their chance to speak. Thank you.
All right, so the ground rules are here for you. The first one I'll start with is turn off the cell phones. We always hear it, and sometimes we still forget. I know, I do it too. But I will start off by saying, we're going to start the forum with a section of education. In that presentation, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go over a few things before the ground rules. This section of education is meant to be purely informational, and once that section is concluded, we will go to for and against arguments for each prop, flipping a coin to see who goes first. None of our speakers present today are being paid, and everyone is volunteering their time, as Lonnie mentioned. So I want to be clear that this is not a debate. Each speaker will have 5 minutes on the for and against side. And they have been encouraged to stay on the topic at hand. I know there's a lot of things that play into these issues, but we just, for the sake of tonight, want to try to stay as focused as we can so that everyone learns as much as they can. Speakers, you will receive a 60, 30, and 10-second warning that your time is about to expire. We don't want you to get caught off guard. We encourage you to finish your sentence. Kara is our time keeper. Say hi, Kara. So she'll be holding those cards. So, just briefly glancing over to make sure that you're good. Please know that if you go past your time in a dramatic fashion, the sound will be turned off, only out of fairness. I know we all have unending thoughts in our brains. I do. It doesn't seem to go off, but when the 3-minute timer goes off at City Council, I know that my brain has to go to sleep. So I will also say, just please refrain from clapping or making noise during someone's remarks. I know that you feel strongly, as I mentioned, and have a lot of thoughts and opinions and a lot to add, but we just want to let them stay focused because these folks have done a lot of preparation and you've organized your thoughts, and we want to help you all stay with that line of thinking. So as they maintain civility and respect for our audience, I would ask you to provide that same civility and respect towards them. So if anybody is deemed to be disruptive with repeated interruptions will not be tolerated. Offensive or threatening language will not be tolerated. If we witness those things, you will be asked to leave. We will start the forum tonight by learning about Prop 400, Home Rule. We're joined today by two of our city officials who are here in an informational capacity, and their role this evening is to provide factual background on Prop 400, not to speak for or against. Our city manager, Annette Spickard, has held the position since 2024. The city manager oversees the city's departments, operations, and budget. In that capacity, she can address the administrative and fiscal details of the measure under discussion. Our mayor, Holli Ploog, presides over the city council and its role in setting city policy and direction. She can speak to the council's role in referring the measure to the ballot and what potential impacts would be if the prop passes or fails. Please welcome City Manager Annette Spickard and Mayor Holli Ploog.
Okay, well, while she's getting that ready, I just want to say thank you to the Chamber for inviting us tonight so that we have the opportunity to share this information with you. Get out of the light. Okay, we want it. And one more. Okay, so I am going to do the probably boring part, but I'm going to talk to you about just the technicalities of what Prop 400 is about in terms of home rule and what that is and what that means. And then Mayor Ploog is going to talk some more to you about our budget. So what is an expenditure limit? That's what we're here tonight to learn about in terms of Prop 400. Arizona's Constitution sets a number of limitations on how cities or how much cities can spend of their resources. And it provides a basic formula that was established by the state in 1980, and that's adjusted for inflation and population changes. It also provides the voters with two options that can override that basic state formula, and that's the home rule, which we're talking about tonight. And the other override is called a permanent base adjustment. Right now, 90% of Arizona cities use one of these two override options. As recent as 2024, it was about evenly split, 50-50 if the city used a permanent base or if they used home rule. But as of this year, there's slightly more cities using permanent base adjustment. And this is just another way of it. With home rule, which is what the city of Sedona has used since 1996. What that does is it, instead of basing our budget authority on that formula that's in the Constitution, the voters have given the city council the authority to adopt balanced budgets each year with the amount of resources that we have available. Under a permanent phase adjustment, that's where the voters say, instead of this number that was set in 1980, we want the number for our city to be something different. And then it's the inflation and population factors are multiplied against that, and it sets a new. So home rule allows the city council to adopt a balanced budget just based on what resources are available. Permanent base adjustment changes the formula that sets the ceiling on what a city can spend. I think that's pretty much what I just said. I have a bunch of time reading slides. So again, the permanent base adjustment is a replacement value for that original 1980 number. The only time this is voted on is when the council asks the community what that number should be. And then in the future, if the city budget starts to reach close to whatever that number is, they can go back and ask the community to update that. But it's not voted on every 4 years, which home rule is. So why do the cities even use either of these two options? Primarily, it's because that value that was set in 1980, as time goes on, it becomes more and more relevant to what cities are trying to accomplish for their services to the community. And that's why it's so common that the cities ask voters to approve one of these options. It is an expenditure limitation. It is not a revenue limitation. So cities have taxing authority. When you vote on home rule or permanent base adjustment, that does not impact the ability of the city to levy taxes or collect that revenue. It just affects how much of that revenue they can spend. And I believe you all know that the city of Sedona, does not levy a property tax. So our revenues are primarily derived from sales taxes. And if home rule passes or fails, we'll still collect the same amount of tax revenue that we have the authority to. So this is the formula from the Constitution that tells you how much our limit is under that base formula. So I'm not going to try to explain all the math to you, but basically, if the voters did not approve one of those alternative methods, the city of Sedona's limited or ability to spend money would be limited to the $31.6 million. So that's $15 million for the operations of the city, and then the other $16 million is related to debt service, grants, and any state taxes that are passed through to the city, such as gas tax. Since 1996, the voters have approved it. Home rule, like I said, has to go to the voters every 4 years. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it allows the council to adopt a balanced budget based on what resources we have. Right now, our home rule authority is good through June 30th of 2027. And the council just adopted the budget for that fiscal year on Tuesday this week. I'll repeat. The legal process for referring home rule to the voters to put it on the ballot required us to hold 2 public hearings ahead of time. We've done that. It's on the July 21st ballot. As you know, it's Proposition 400. We had to submit all of that paperwork to the state auditor general to make sure that what we were placing on the ballot met all of the state's requirements. And again, this authority is being asked for the fiscal year that starts July 1st of 2027. Okay, so what happens if home rule does not pass, the city council has some options about what they can ask the voters to do after that. They can ask the voters to approve a temporary override for 1 year, and that does require a vote. And if it's approved, then we can go ahead and exceed the formula limit for 1 year. That timing of that election is May of 27. And so because it's applying to July 1st, 2027 moving forward, that does create some uncertainty for planning purposes. And the override allows the completion of projects. About the override, how the council.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Only the council can put the override on the ballot. The citizens, residents cannot. It's one number, voted up or down, no guarantee it will pass. And it is not something where you can choose which projects you want, which projects you don't want. One number council puts on the ballot. Because it would not be associated with a state election, the city would also have to pay for that ballot, which is about $40,000. Would be borne by the city. So I just wanted to be clear because there have been some misinformation about exactly what an override is. And yes, you can do an override every single year. But if it fails, then you revert back to your 1980 number. Interestingly enough, I've been doing some research about 1996 and when it passed, but it actually failed in 1994. And in 1994, the budget was $21 million. It was a combination of the base, which was around 7 million, and then the excluded items, which was about 16 million. So it was 23 million, which is kind of interesting because that's 40 years ago. But what I found by doing some archival research is that the 1994, the city decided, because the state required it, to put in a wastewater treatment plant. And there was a huge fight among the residents for and against the wastewater treatment plant. And as a result, the home rule failed because it was believed that if home rule failed, then a wastewater treatment plant would not be able to be built. However, unlike what some people say, the kind of backward thing about moving forward with if home rule were to fail, is that you can bond these projects. So that's what the city did back then. They bonded, issued bonds for the wastewater treatment plant, and the project moved forward. In 1996, it was back on the ballot. There wasn't a single argument in favor or against. This passed. So it was interesting. I thought every election, there's something that people don't want and something that tears the community apart.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, moving on. So why did voters approve a home rule option? For many cities, the state's calculations, that formula that was set in 1980 does not consider that there are changes to city services, there are new utilities, there could be impacts from visitation, that are different than population growth, where there's demand on services that the city needs to respond to, or if the city creates new revenue sources, that basic formula does not take that into account. And so that's why over 90% of the cities in the state choose one of these override options in order to match their service delivery and financial reality to what they're trying to. Which is basically what I just said. So there's two different ways to look at what the limit is without home rule. So based on that formula, our 25-26, the fiscal year we were just finishing, if we were under the basic formula without the override options, our budget would only be $15.4 million for providing all the operations and services that we provide here. And then we would be allowed to spend an additional $16 million related to paying our bonded debt service, fulfilling grant obligations, and using the state pass-through funds from things like the gas tax. So our cap on our budget would have been $31.6 million. Our current budget in 25-26 was $103 million to deliver our current services. So obviously that's a very big difference, $71.5 million difference between what that basic formula provides and what the home rule option allows. The other way you can look at it is that it's kind of a backwards way of looking at it, I guess, is what's the difference between the basic formula, our total budget, and backing out our debt service? How much of our budget would have been subject to the limit? The different way of it. The bottom line is there's a $72 or $71.6 million gap. Okay, so we wanted to just touch on briefly about the city's budget generally, and that we have a lot of processes and checks and balances in place when we go through development of the budget and the process of adopting the budget. We have audits in a number of ways, and the city's budget and the city's financial statements are submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association every year, and we receive national recognition for the quality of our work. The city of Sedona has also been rated by credit agencies a number of times because we do have some debt that we have issued into the private market. And we're currently rated at a AA-, and that's the highest rating a city can get that does not have a property tax. If we did levy a property tax and that was what we were guaranteeing our bond payments with, we would actually be eligible for a higher rating. So that's pretty good.
I wanted to address some rumors that are circulating about our financial management. The fact that our spending is out of control, and our budgets for the last 3 years have declined, not increased. Number one. Number two, if you look at the cities in the Verde Valley in comparison to us, Cottonwood's budget last year was $155 million, and Clarkdale's was close to $50 million. So we are not out of line given where we are and our neighbors. And we have different services that we provide, but those are the numbers. Third, was a rumor going around that we mismanaged our current budget and that there was a $4 million, the next day was a $5 million discrepancy, and somehow this money disappeared. Well, it turns out that And by the way, when people offered that up, they had no documentation. They couldn't point to a line on the budget where that allegedly was. We figured it out. Staff figured it out. It was how you read financial reports in a government environment. When people don't understand government accounting, then they don't know how to read the statements, and they may think that they don't match when they're intended not to match. And there was actually an apology by the person who started this rumor that acknowledged that there was no mismanagement and that what we were reporting was accurate.
Okay. So one of the questions about what is the city required to provide and what are we doing as a policy choice versus what is required. So for the city, the state expects us to do building permits and building inspections and anything related to public health, safety, and welfare. So that is the 2.2 million is how much we spend right now to provide that service. We also provide for public streets, stormwater drainage, and maintenance of those items, and that's 9.7 million. And this is not new capital projects. This is just what it takes to maintain the existing public street system and drainage system. And then it costs us a little over $4 million a year to operate the 24/7 wastewater treatment plant and make sure that, you know, when you flush the toilet, everything works. And then public safety, we're required to provide public safety, and our police operations costs approximately so our total just for these functions is 25.5 million. And if you'll recall, the limit under the state formula without one of the alternative overrides is roughly 15 million.
So that's $25.5 million. And if we were under the limit, it would be 15.4 million. And I just want to say really quickly that we have a very demanding public. Our residents expect a very high standard: trail maintenance, drainage and floods, street repairs, trimming trees, weeding property, our police department response time, our recreation, pickleball, disc golf, skate park, dog park, trash pickup, expanded transit. We're not using scare tactics. These things cannot be accomplished in a $15.5 million budget.
I think we're at time. We're happy to provide this slide deck presentation to anybody that would like a copy. And there are additional bits of information we didn't have a chance to touch on. Again, thank you to the Chamber for inviting us to share this information with you tonight. And we look forward to speaking with you.
All right, budgeting, riveting stuff, but it is so important to be informed. So thank you both for walking us through that. And yes, we will be sure to make these documents available on our website. So I know it was a lot of information to digest, but it is also available on the city's website. So gentlemen, as we've discussed, we're going to flip a coin to see who will go first of the for and against arguments. So thank you both for being here. Mike, would you like to call it?
Not catching would you like to go first, sir? All right. Welcome to the stage.
All right, everybody. I'm going to read Mike's biography here as he's joining me on stage. Mike is one of the 30 or so founders of the satellite TV consumer industry in 1980. From 1989 to 1998, he expanded 10 distribution locations from Wisconsin to Florida and Illinois to Pennsylvania. The name of the company was Consumer Satellite Systems. In 1985, he created National Programming Service, a satellite TV programming division representing CNN, HBO, ESPN, Fox News, and dozens of other channels. NPS serviced 400,000 customers in North America. From 2002 to 2023, he was appointed to the board of directors of EchoStar of Dish Network and appointed to the audit committee chairman. EchoStar bought Hughes Communications in 2011, which had worldwide business dealings. In 2023, EchoStar launched the heaviest communications satellite in history on a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket, better known as HughesNet to the public. EchoStar has over 12,000 employees and is a NASDAQ-traded company under the symbol SATS. Mr. Schroeder is also an active charity pilot, flying post-9/11 veterans for PTSD, medical, and family missions. He also flies for the environmental company Lighthawk, transporting endangered species. Please welcome Mike Schroeder.
All right, thank you very much. I'll make this quick because it only gave me 5 minutes, so, which is good. My response to this is no home rule. We're looking for responsible government. There's been a lot of rumors that's been going around that if home rule passes or no home rule passes, the city loses money. And it was explained, no, they don't. They just can't spend it. The reality is there's a spending limit, and the shall items that is required by the states. Directed services plus extras with additional spending available with voter-approved council-requested overrides that remain. So the state has a series of things that's very limited. It's shall. They have to do that, and everything else is optional. We do a lot of optional things. There's no question about it. To give us a little balance here, at Sedona, we have 202 employees. 45 of them earn over $100,000 a year, and our mean family income here is $74,000. And just a single person is about $52,000. So I'm looking at, we compared 6 western communities: Snowflake, Winslow, Chino Valley, Delta, if you read Colorado, Socorro, New Mexico. All have tourists to some level. And by the way, Cottonwood has 5,000 more people than we do, so yeah, they're going to be a little more expensive. The population of these cities start at 6,700 to 14,000. We are about 7,400. The average employees for those cities is 138, not 202. The budget per resident is $3,555. Average budget, all cities, is $35 million. Sedona budget saw $103 million with a 6% population decline since 2000 is $10,600 per resident. Why is Sedona's budget $68 million higher? And since I was working on the road project in 179 back in 2000, we had 2 to 3 million tourists like we do today. So basically the same number. Why don't we cut our sales tax by 1% and the bed tax by 1%? People shop elsewhere. Resorts out of the city limits advertise a 3.5% savings. If you got a $50,000 wedding or a $100,000 wedding or a big event, they advertise they have 3.5%. That's a lot of money. Businesses in town lose money. Residents, you're paying 3.5%, probably on everything except for some food items. And every time that Amazon truck drops a package on your door, you're paying 3.5%. Why not 2.5%? We had a 5% or 0.5% sale or temporary sales tax, and the council made it permanent. Why do we need to collect all those dollars when we've got these kind of expenses going out the door? Your real estate taxes. You say, oh, you're not increasing it? Well, Sedona has pulled 107 parcels off the Yavapai and Comello County tax rolls. That's 657 acres. No tax collected on city property. No property tax. They don't pay city property. Who makes up that difference? Because the assessor's got to get X number of dollars based on the request from the school district and fire department and so on. You make that up. So to say that this doesn't have any effect on your property taxes or somebody renting, because those are passed through, it's just not true. You make up the difference. The cultural park purchase done by a lame duck council cost $20 million that was taken off the tax rolls. And if you take a look at the total cost of that, it's going to be $23 million. Crazy over budgeted projects. Let's talk about Forest Road at a $14 million cost overrun. Projected parking garage, $11 million, now $26.4. An $840,000 culvert benefiting no citizens on Back of Beyond Road that absolutely wasn't necessary, unless you're trying to get tourists down to the Cathedral Rock, trailhead. Bus programs with little or no component of revenue lose millions of dollars a year. Sidewalks for hikers, yes, we have the example. Patchwork road programs, no traffic relief, no long-term thinking. If you vote no on home rule, nothing changes. The July 27 budget, you saw it, $31 million. And you have the opportunity for 2 overrides. So we passed in 2018, no home rule. We had permanent base adjustment on the November ballot. City Council told voters not to put it on, even though it was a safety net. So why not? They don't want your control. They need to ask you for an override and explain why they need money. Thank you. By the way, I've got this in detail to hand out afterwards.
All right. Thank you all for being on good behavior. I've not heard a single cell phone since we've been in here. I love that. So our next speaker is Al Comello, speaking for Prop 400. Al Comello has lived in Sedona since 1998 and has spent much of that time volunteering with local nonprofits, community organizations, and civic boards. His services included leadership positions with the Sedona Community Center, the Sedona Oak Creek Fire District, the Sedona Historical Society, the Sedona Airport Supporters Association, and the Sedona Chamber of Commerce, where he currently serves on the board of directors. He has also helped to organize and support numerous community events, including over 10 years of the Sedona Airport Fun Day and Open House, the 2008 Sedona Community Fair, the 2007 Western Americana Day, and the 15-year run of the Sedona Wine Fest. For more than a decade, he has assisted with marketing efforts for the Meals on Wheels Arizona Tax Credit Program. His involvement reflects a long-standing commitment to helping make Sedona a better place to live, work, and visit. He is single and lives in West Sedona. Please welcome Al Comello. That's the bio he gave me. I did not have
Well, good evening. I wish we didn't have to vote on home rule every 4 years. In fact, I think this should be the last home rule vote that we have to do in Sedona. Many Arizona cities have adopted the permanent base adjustment, the PBA, including Cottonwood and Clarkdale, which provides a much more stable long-term solution to the funding issues of the city. After this election, I hope that Sedona begins to have a discussion about placing the PBA on the 2028 election. But that is the future. Today's vote is about protecting Sedona now. And that's why I support Home Rule Proposition 400. We all should. Over the years, I have watched Sedona grow, face challenges, and create opportunities for all of us. What I have learned is simple. Sedona succeeds when we plan ahead and work together, not when we tie our hands behind our back and fight each other. But let's be honest. Something about this election is different. It feels different. We keep hearing that Sedona is broken, that City Hall is broken, that somehow everything needs to be torn down and rebuilt. A handful of residents decided to declare war on Sedona and claim that the city should be stripped down and rebuilt. They have lost confidence in Sedona. They are telling us to vote no on home rule or maybe flip a coin to decide. I have not lost confidence in Sedona, and I don't think the vast majority of us have either. I just don't buy the whole argument that the city needs to rethink its core mission and operation. Sedona is not broken. If all of us as residents understood the complexities of running a modern city of 10,000 that attracts millions of visitors and is located in rural Arizona, we would appreciate the city and the fine job it does. Remember, home rule is not a tax increase. It creates no new tax. It simply allows Sedona to spend the revenue it already collects. Revenue generated largely by visitors, not residents. A no vote would not lower anybody's taxes. It would simply prevent Sedona from using its own money for public safety, roads, parks, transit, and community services. And here's the part that I cannot understand. Why would Sedona vote to cut up to $70 million from its budget? Money that would just sit in the bank. It does not make sense. The city has the money, almost $100 million in reserves. Talk about a rainy day fund. That's a rainy year fund. Our needs are real. The revenue has already been collected. The only question is whether we will tell ourselves, even though we have the resources, we're going to tie our hands behind our back on services and projects. This isn't fiscal responsibility. It is self-imposed limitation. It does not make sense. A failure of home rule would ripple through the fabric of this community and create great harm to all of us, harm that would be hard to reverse. It makes no sense to vote no on home rule. Sedona may have only 10,000 residents, and every day we serve many more times than that. Visitors, workers, and residents all depend on the same roads, public officers, parks, and infrastructure. We are not Mayberry. We shouldn't pretend that we are. We are at times a town of 20 or 30,000 people or more that require services. Without home rule, Sedona would lose its flexibility to support organizations that make Sedona special. The Community Library, Meals on Wheels, Film Festival, Humane Society, and dozens of other organizations. Do you know that the city provides millions of dollars to these nonprofits every year? Millions. So I want to leave you with one thought. The greatest threat to Sedona is not growth. It's not change. It's choosing to voluntarily cripple ourselves. I support studying the permanent base adjustment for 2028. And I hope this is the last home rule election we ever have to hold. But until that day comes, vote yes on Proposition 400 home rule, vote for local control, vote for local rule. Thank you. And I have things to hand out to I had 2 seconds.
All right, everybody's staying in their time limits. I still haven't heard any phones. This is great. All right, so as I reach into my pocket for this quarter again, I'm going to tell you about the next speaker, who unfortunately could not be with us here today, but he was able to pre-record his remarks. So for the next portion of the program, we are going to learn about Prop 403, and we will hear from Jim Rounds, President and CEO of the Rounds Consulting Group. As I mentioned, speakers for this program are with us purely in an informational capacity and just providing the facts around each prop. Jim Rounds is the President and CEO of Rounds Consulting Group. The firm specializes in blending economic principles with a number of other fields of study to provide unique and efficient observations and recommendations. The firm is currently considered by many to be the top economics and public policy advisors in Arizona. While RCG provides enhanced analyses to both public and private sector entities throughout Arizona, the company has also provided analyses in a number of other states across the country. Unique expertise of Mr. Rounds and RCG staff has been utilized to assist with the development of new public policy at the state and local levels of government, including the design of multiple tax law changes, the creation of new economic development programs, and the management of regulatory reform. Jim's supportive activities throughout the state includes matters related to real estate, healthcare, transportation, infrastructure, workforce development, education investment, airport development, energy sector analysis, water infrastructure analysis, housing development and affordability matters, economic impact modeling, among many other economic fundamentals that make the state's economy function. Mr. Rounds regularly provides advice to policymakers at the Arizona Capitol, including the governor's office, leadership of the Arizona House of Representatives and Senate, mayors throughout the state, city council members, county board members, and other public and private sector leaders within the state's various communities. He has delivered hundreds of economics and public policies presentations and is quoted weekly on television, radio, and in printed media. Recently, Jim introduced the concept of designing public policy based on generating a positive return on investment, ROI, for state taxpayers. This new approach has been embraced by a large number of lawmakers, and it's been used at the state and local levels of government. Jim enjoys participating in multiple organizations as well, in using analysis and communication to bridge political gaps. He has served on scores of boards and commissions and is a key advisor of some of the most complex economic advancements made by the state. Again, that was the bio presented to me. I did not add anything. So although he is unfortunately available to be with us, we're going to go ahead and play a video for you now. Thank you to Jim Rounds for helping our community learn more about Prop 403.
Hi, my name is Jim Rounds, and I'm here to talk about Prop 403, the Sedona Cultural Park Preservation Act. And what it does is it designates the 41-acre city-owned property near the Cultural Park Trailhead as a parks facility that's open to the public, prohibiting residential uses and requiring the city to maintain the property. A yes vote would formally enact the provisions that I just mentioned. However, the city will not be required to improve the amphitheater. A no vote leaves things unchanged, but the city will have some flexibility moving forward in how the property is utilized. And I'm going to be talking about it from an economic and a social perspective, and there's costs and there's benefits of each option. So we've done extensive analyses of all parts of rural Arizona, including analyses in Sedona. And there appear to be some tourism-related impacts and some affordability-related impacts that individuals should consider. So on the tourism side, there could be some positive impacts because there would be an additional city amenity which could enhance tourism, but only at the margin. Keep in mind that the tourism impact on the city is quite large, and so any individual project won't have a significant impact on it, but it would further the community's base sector, which is what brings money into the region and creates the revenue for building roads and other infrastructure for area residents. Now, arguments have been made related to preserving the area also due to its cultural significance, and so that's something for people to consider. Related to other issues, other options for the property, a no vote would maintain things the way they are. Now, related to some of the concerns of a yes vote, there should be some concern about affordability within the community. Housing affordability is something that we've analyzed extensively across the state and also in Sedona, and simply fixing the short-term rental issue is not going to make the area affordable. So eliminating another opportunity for housing will have, again, a marginal impact on housing affordability. And so that's something to also consider. And when I talk about that some of the cities are heavily dependent on tourism, this means that the current economy could have a slight positive impact if the tourism industry is slightly expanded. However, in the longer term, there could be a negative impact with the yes vote because the city definitely needs to diversify its economic base, and we have to figure out ways of having affordable housing for a lot of the area workers who will have to commute for a long way at the present time and probably well into the future. So after looking at this, without doing a detailed economic impact analysis of each option, it's difficult to say that one option is better than another from an economic perspective. And so this comes down to personal preference to some extent, lacking that additional research didn't occur. Again, A yes vote would require the city to essentially maintain the property and would eliminate housing opportunities and other development opportunities. A no vote would return things to where they currently are, and it allows for flexibility moving forward. So I hope this was helpful, and good luck.
All right. So, being in this theater, we just got the best video and sound quality we could have gotten from a recorded speaker. So, appreciate you all understanding that he was not able to be here today. He does live in the metro area. So, we're going to flip another coin. Let's see, Jim, would you like to call it?
All right, Mr. Kepple, I'm going to read your bio here.
All right, our next speaker is Richard Kepple. So, 1 second. Let me pull up. Richard Kepple is the co-owner of Sedona Soul Adventures, a long-standing local business and 24-year member of the Sedona Chamber of Commerce. Sedona Soul Adventures was also one of the founding members of the Sedona Metaphysical Spiritual Association, SIMSA, helping support and promote Sedona's unique role as a center for personal growth, healing, and spiritual exploration. Richard brings more than 35 years of high-tech experience from Silicon Valley, including executive roles in both Fortune 100 and startup companies. Locally, he served for 2 years as a founding member of Sedona Tourism Advisory Board. He also was one of the citizens who contributed to the Sedona Broadband Initiative under the Economic Development Department. This evening, Richard will speak from his experience as a business owner, chamber member, and longtime participant in Sedona's tourism and wellness communities. Everybody, welcome Richard Kepple.
Thank you very much to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, David, and the team for here. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Richard Kepple, and I'm here to encourage you to vote no on Proposition 403. The reasons are pretty simple. I mean, obviously, Jim gave some pluses and minuses and really made it up to us, right? In terms of our discussions today and going forward. My personal experience coming to Sedona around 9 years ago from Silicon Valley was coming to a community, small community in northern Arizona, beautiful, idyllic place, sort of a vibrant community of young people going off doing different things, having parties and such. And over the last 9 years, it's just changed quite a lot. I think we would all agree. What we've seen with the onset of Senate Bill 1350, which the state of Arizona passed in 2016, allowed for basically the unbridled penetration of short-term rentals into our community. As a result, it took basically the low end and middle market of our housing stock, which were primarily what? The hourly and professional workers that, in fact, work in my company, Sedona Solar. So I've seen over the last 9 years, and frankly, working at Sedona Solar, day in and day out, as I've had my employees literally pitched to the street out of their rental homes to be converted into a short-term rental over and over and over. My employees work all around the country now. Some actually come in, commute from Cottonwood, from Clarkdale, from Prescott. And those commutes are very, very taxing. I know a lot of people think, oh gosh, I commuted when I was a youngster. Who cares? Well, last week I was taking my dogs down to PetSmart. For a groom, they said, I'm sorry, Mr. Kepple, we can't accept your dogs today. Our groom who lives in Flagstaff couldn't make it because her car broke down. I'm sure if she lived actually in Sedona, she would find some transportation here. But because of that, I had an interruption in service because the employees who worked here did not live here. So simply put, 403 will restrict employees that work for me in other businesses here in Sedona to be able to do their work, which means it's interruptions to me, increased salaries I have to pay to induce them for 30, 40, 50-minute commutes, and have the interruption possibilities as I explained in the smart example. So for me, the issue really is long-term. Short-term rentals are not going away. 10 years from now, when that park could be starting to have housing established, 10 years from now, we'll have more than the 20 to 25% short-term rentals of today. How much more, we can all debate, but it's certainly not going to be less. How many less people are age 20 if they're 49? People who are going to be doing those professional jobs, they can't live here. You're not going to commute here. They'll find jobs elsewhere. So what leaves us then in Sedona if we decide to limit housing as an option at the cultural park? It'll leave us with short-term rentals and retirees. Nobody in the middle market, nobody younger than 50, because they won't pay, they can't afford it. They won't be able to work for companies like myself. So the professionals that I need in my employment will not be available. So what am I going to do? What are companies like me going to do? You have any ideas? Yeah, not too pretty, is it? After 24 years serving this community with over 90 employees, to be able to say that I can't find employees to run my business, or even worse, when it comes to succession planning, those of us who get a little bit older in age would love to find some young people who take over the business and run it for us. Where do I find them? Not here. Do I find them some other place? Will they come here, and how would they live? How would they find a place? Until we open up housing as an option, and really do the middle market piece, which I think the Dallas housing study showed us a couple months ago. I think that's our option here. So I encourage you to vote no on 403. Give us the opportunity to be able to restock our community for people to do the professional work that we need to help our local businesses provide the services. And by the way, this is not a tourism. This is not tourism. So in some sense, it's an economic development plea as well. So again, vote no on 403, and thank you very much.
Whoa.
All our positive progress would have been lost if I tripped. Fortunately, still on my feet. And thank you again for being here and joining us again tonight. I have one final speaker to introduce, Jim Murphy, advocating for Prop 403. Jim, if you'd like to join me, I'll read your bio on your way up. After 35 years, oh, yep, we can clap for him. Thank you, Robert. After 35 years of executive leadership in the food and beverage industry, he moved into residential building industry 9 years ago, culminating with the construction of his home here in Sedona. He was involved with the Save Sedona Committee to secure signatures to get Prop 403 on the ballot, and is a passionate mountain biker who uses the trails at the Culture Park 2 to 3 times each week. Once again, welcome Jim Murphy.
Give a full bio, but we'll get you out of here 10 minutes early. Good evening, neighbors, and thank you, Chamber and the Lodging Council, for putting this on tonight. I'm here to ask for your vote on Proposition 403 as a yes. Similar to the vote that passed in 1996 to establish the Cultural Park. At its core, Prop 403 is about preserving one of Sedona's last significant open spaces. The property in question encompasses 41 acres in the Cultural Park. Prop 403 preserves the existing zoning protections for recreation, cultural activities, and the arts. It prevents residential development from being placed on this unique site while preserving future options for community-oriented services. Let's address one misconception up front. Prop 403 does not require the city to rebuild the amphitheater. It does not require the city either to spend taxpayer money aside from maintaining this park as it does any other city property. It also does not require the city to operate any facility within the park. It simply preserves the option for cultural, recreation, and artistic uses in the future, including a rec center on site if the city chooses to do so. The reason we are voting on this issue today is because the residents demanded a voice. More than 1,400 Sedona residents signed petitions to place Prop 403 on the ballot. In the city where local elections often attract only a few thousand voters, that level of participation demonstrates that many residents believe this land has special consideration. Supporters of 403 often portrayed as being opposed to housing. I can't speak for everyone, I'll speak for myself, as I just built my home here 3 years ago. but I have spent the last 9 years in construction and working on residential developments ranging from 300 units to over 4,000 units. I understand the importance of housing. What I do also understand is the realities of construction costs. So let me share those with you. The cultural park is not an easy site to build. It requires significant infrastructure, extensive grading, construction in difficult terrain, and those realities considerably increase costs and ultimately affect affordability, almost certainly removing the affordable from affordable housing. The recent construction of villas on Shelby finished at $850,000 per unit, without any of the challenges you'll have at this cultural park. So one should realistically expect similar residential units in this location to cost north of $1 million. Stop for a minute to calculate the subsidies required to make affordable housing or workforce housing in this area. Now, across the Verde Valley, additional housing opportunities continue to emerge just 12 miles away. Cottonwood has approved a development plan for approximately 2,050 residential units right on 89A. Meanwhile, our own city owns more than 200 acres, a mere 4.5 miles away at the Dells. This space could not only accommodate Sedona's current needs of housing, but the needs of housing for many decades. The question before voters is not whether we need housing. The question is whether one of Sedona's last remaining open spaces is the right place for this housing. Strong supporters for this initiative certainly have the attention of our city council, who decided to invest tens of thousands of dollars on consultants, renderings, and numerous meetings to sell us, the voters. But the voters rejected this, as we saw in the recent survey. When voters spoke even louder, the city filed a lawsuit against their own residents in order to suppress our opposition to the plan. And the courts sided with citizens of Sedona. Here's what the ruling stated. This initiative does not change any property from one zone to another, impose any regulation not previously imposed, or remove, modify, or modify any previous modifications. Once development occurs on these 41 acres, there is no second chance. The open space, views, and natural character that define this spectacular footprint in Sedona are gone forever. A yes vote on Prop 403 preserves options for recreation, culture, and the arts, and protects one of the last major undeveloped properties in our city. Most importantly, it ensures for future generations that same experience that you had when you came to Sedona. Once this land is developed, we can't get it back. I want to thank the Save Sedona Committee, who worked hard to get this on Proposition 403 on the ballot. On their behalf, I respectfully ask for your yes vote on Prop 403. And by the way, it is on the back page of your ballot. Thank you for your time tonight.
All right, as Jim mentioned, fill out the whole ballot. I know, it's a lot of research, but I'd love to thank you all here, and if we could just show some love for everybody here for engaging in elections. So do not forget, primary election day, July 21st. Put it on the fridge, put it in your calendar. I think it should be a national holiday, but here we are. The deadline to register for this election has passed, so the rules are now set for the ballots. Mail-in ballots have been sent out. Some of you all might have received yours by now. If you want to confirm that you are registered and that your name and address are current, you can check your status anytime through the Arizona Voter Information Portal at my.arizona.vote. And you can also use those resources from the county. And so early voting is already underway. The last day to request a mail-in ballot is July 10th. Election day, I'm going to say it again, July 21st. All right, those polls are open all day. If you have any questions about this election, anything that's been left out, you can always contact the Sedona City Clerk's office at 928-282-3113. Ask me for that number afterwards. I'll give it to you. And thank you all for attending and taking the time to inform yourselves before you vote. Thank you to the Sedona Lodging Council for partnering on this event. And thank you to the Mary D. Fisher Theater for partnering on our event here and hosting us. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Is there a way to get a copy of Jim Rouse's video?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll put everything on our website on a blog, sedonachamber.com. My email is dkey@sedonachamber.com. If you feel like you're trying to access a file and you have any trouble, we're here to help, all right? Thank you all and have a lovely evening.